Hey, good morning to you. Mark Sutter with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is June 1st, 2020, the start of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, at least on a calendar. Of course, we've already had two named storms, Arthur and Bertha, before hurricane season even officially began. Today begins the 6-month journey through hurricane season where we will watch the tropics, probably have a few anxious moments, and very likely going to have to deal with a couple of hurricanes hitting the United States this year, but you know what? We're going to be ready for it. We're going to use our past experiences to help us. And with everything else going on in the world, at least this is something that we know. All right? So let's use our experience going forward and don't fear the unknown, because we know hurricanes. We know how to deal with them. You know me. You trust me, hopefully. There's other sources out there to help you prepare and use common sense to get through the next 6 months ahead. All right, so here we are. As they say, you are here. This is the June 1st line of the climatology curve, going back to more than 100 years. And you see where we're headed to the peak here in September. And then it drops off with a secondary peak in October, and then a third peak in early November. And then it wanes away, hopefully, as we get into December. So typically in the first part of the hurricane season, activity is fairly limited, but that doesn't mean zero. And even in the month of May, we have had activity before, including this year. It'll be interesting to see when they update this graphic. I don't know how many years it's been, but it's still fairly applicable that the peak of the season occurs right in here in the first part of September. And you know that already, but I'm just refreshing it for you. So here we are, first day of the season. We have invest area 93L down in the Bay of Campeche. The energy that's going to spawn this system, and I'm almost certain we're going to have Cristobal here, and that's how you say it, by the way, Cristobal. In fact, let's just do this real quick. I should have had this ready to go. It's my fault, but that's all right. It's all sitting right here, nice and convenient, because of the fine webmaster work from the National Hurricane Center IT folks. Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, Dolly, Edouard, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah, Isaias, Josephine, Kyle, Laura, Marco, Nana. Please let Nana be a fish storm. No offense to anyone named Nana, but we cannot have a Category 4 Hurricane Nana hitting a land location. It's just odd. Omar, Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy, Vicky, and Wilfred. All right, so we've already used Arthur and Bertha. Next will be Cristobal. And to my knowledge, that's how you say it, Cristobal. So again, here's the area. Excuse me, 80% chance. I still got that Texas air layer. Driving home from Texas still in Atlanta, the east side of Atlanta now. Anyway, and I'm not used to being up this early. I better get used to it, though. 80% chance, and it's got some of the DNA left over from East Pacific Tropical Storm Amanda, and I'll show you all of this in just a moment. The area of favorability and formation stuck in the Bay of Campeche down here. I know there's going to be a lot of talk about where this heads after that. Is it into the Gulf? Does it just get buried down here, and that's the end of it over time? In terms of U.S. impacts, I mean, there's already impacts over the Yucatan, and we'll talk about that more as we progress here. So beautiful satellite animation from the weathernerds.org site. Visible satellites, so the sun's coming up, and it illuminates the cloud tops there. The yellow blinking things, those are the lightning flashes, the GLM flash count that the modern GOES 16 is able to pick up and detect. I'm going to tell you what, that is a very vigorous circulation. You can see that there in the satellite animation. We'll freeze it. It's in there. There's low pressure, mid-levels probably, and once this gets out over the Bay of Campeche over here, water temperatures are 28 Celsius, 29 Celsius, plenty warm, and as I'll show you in a moment, the upper levels are very, very favorable for this to develop, and so it's almost a certainty that by tomorrow, at the latest, we're going to have Tropical Storm Cristobal develop somewhere in this part of the Bay of Campeche. Looking at this is the vorticity signature. Upper level winds are next. So this is really fascinating. I talk about this often. One of my favorite tools in our tracking toolbox. And you can see that is the vorticity signature right there. A little bit of the DNA, like I said, parts left over from the energy from Tropical Storm Amanda in the Eastern Pacific yesterday. But the low-level circulation dissipated, Amanda gone, and so it's going to get the name Cristobal once this area of energy right here moves out into the Bay of Campeche later today and into tomorrow. So that is going to be the area to focus on right there. Very easy to see. Watch how round it gets. It's going to bundle that energy, and it's going to be off to the races. And the impacts down here, we'll go back to the satellite picture for a moment. This lightning that we see in here is indicating lots of upward motion, and instability is plentiful. Almost looks like a feeder band trying to come in here. Heavy rain over portions of the Yucatan, and that's going to be the threat here, especially as this moves into the Bay of Campeche, and probably going to mill around over here for a few days. And that's going to bring the threat of heavy rainfall for Mexico, and that's a big deal. Lots of heavy rain can cause flooding. Rain is an impact. Please remember that, all right? This has, I forgot upper level winds. This is impressive, okay? When you look for what would help something to develop, this is getting it right here. Lots of outflow. You can see how the winds are fanning out like this all around the system. The wind is not cutting across it like that. And you don't see like, as an example, so here's a trough out here. And so if you had a hurricane moving this way, these upper level winds would be going right over the top of it in the opposite direction. Just as a good example here. You get that? In this situation, the energy is down here and the upper level winds are fanning out in this clockwise fashion, allowing the air to spread out in all directions away from the low pressure that's trying to develop here. And that's an important ingredient. It's a very large anticyclone aloft. Very favorable conditions for this to develop. And added to that, now we can show this, the Gulf of Mexico has water temperatures over here and the Bay of Campeche that are warmer than average. In fact, it just so happens to be that right there, just south of 20 degrees latitude, is an area of fairly substantial anomalies above the long-term average. And I'll mark it over with my own red right there. That's, it matters. And so this has got warmer temperatures to work with than we're used to seeing. And then even the Western Gulf, warmer than average by just a little bit. But it doesn't matter. Even a little bit is a lot of energy. A little bit of an increase in temperature is a big increase in overall potential energy. Elsewhere, as we start the hurricane season, warm in the Atlantic generally speaking, La Nina developing in the Pacific. We know this already. Favorable setup for a very busy hurricane season ahead. We will have lulls. We're going to have presumably Cristobal coming up, and then we might have a lull. It's not going to be busy all the time, and we might even go several weeks without anything, hopefully. And then August and September are probably going to be very, very busy as upward motion and the general favorability pattern, what we call the velocity potential, will favor the Atlantic Basin this year, especially in those peak months, really after August 20th through the end of September, probably into the first couple of weeks of October. But right now, we have something to deal with already, so get ready. All right, so what's the future for this system? This is the ECMWF, the European. And let me just outline what's what to kind of get you geographically oriented here. Trying to get the blue to show up. Thank you. East coast of the U.S., the Carolinas, there's Florida, and Mexico. There we go. Just kind of showing you what's what. Pacific side of things. And here's the state of Texas over here, outlining it for you. There's Louisiana. All right? So we can leave that up. This right here, if you follow my cursor, that is the area of energy 24 hours from last night. So this is valid tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. That's the area of energy right there. Over the Bay of Campeche, probably a tropical depression at that point. 24 hours, and by the way, this particular version of the Euro from Tropical Tidbits, it's only in 24-hour increments. That's the way it goes. All right, 24 hours later, okay, Tuesday night, definitely strong signal down there in the Bay of Campeche. You see that right there. Unmistakable. Another 24 hours out. That's Tuesday night. Here's Wednesday night. Absolutely positive signal, tropical storm, maybe a hurricane. Wouldn't surprise me at all. That area is notorious for spinning up systems rapidly. Now, for those of us that are interested in lower 48 United States impacts, the U.S., we don't know after about day 3 or 4 what's going to happen. It's complicated. This could kind of go down and be buried, as I'm going to show you, in Mexico and never recover. And that would be great for the United States interest. Obviously a big rainmaker, other impacts for Mexico. We don't want to discount that and say, well, it's in Mexico, who cares? Well, I care, and certainly the people in Mexico care. So if it gets buried in Mexico and doesn't recover, and we don't have to really worry about it too much in the United States. I don't know what's going to happen for sure. We're talking several days out. Remember, hurricanes, tropical storms, etc., we model the atmosphere, we being human beings, and it's numeric weather prediction, and there's errors. It's prone to be wrong. So don't look at any one model output and say, oh, that's what's going to happen. I either have to worry completely, which we don't want people worrying. That's a whole other story. Or I'm not going to pay any attention to it because it's not going to do anything. You have to find that right median down the middle of, well, how do we monitor this? And, looking at the bigger picture is what's very helpful. And we look at what we know and what we don't know. So there it is. This is 72 hours out, and that's a fairly confident forecast from the global models that it's generally going to be tucked in to the area of the Yucatan. I think we know our geography now, so I can draw on the map here. So there's our system. And then we see a few hints here. This is the high pressure, some of these height lines in here, high pressure extending. And this is 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, by the way, what we call the 850 millibar level. So it's about 5,000 feet up. And there is fairly strong high pressure keeping this sort of tucked down here. So this air is denser, if you will. It's thicker than this lighter rising air down here. That's kind of one way to look at it. So Cristobal cannot come out of here until the heights in the atmosphere either retreat this way and allows a path, or simply weaken overall, or a combination of the two. And we'll get into that in more detail in the coming days. Anyway, day 4, it's still kind of stuck down there, makes landfall, according to the Euro here, in southeastern Mexico. Day 5 begins to weaken, but there's the energy still there. The fingerprint of it, if you will, it's still there. That's day 5. Day 6, it supposedly pops out into the southern Gulf now, a very large system at this point in time. Our high pressure area has retreated, and before the next large heat dome can build over the United States, this starts to move north. That's what the model is suggesting by day 6. By day 7, it starts to concentrate more. It's in the west central Gulf of Mexico. We're in this transition period, and it's a race against time. Do we get this big ridge, big bubble of hot high pressure to build over the Gulf, and this would come out and maybe go into Mexico, maybe it just gets buried, or does this happen later and this comes up into Texas? I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. That's where you need to look at what we call ensemble forecasting. A lot of different scenarios where we can play what if. But you know what? I will say this. That's only if you want to. You don't have to go look at days 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on any computer model. It's just like watching a television show or listening to music that you don't like, or if you don't want to listen to politics or hear people rant about it on Facebook, turn it off. You don't have to go look at these long-range forecasts from the computer models if you think it might cause you anxiety. Don't do it. I do it because it gives me clues to what to look for. I don't like to ever refer to this as a game because I try to keep this very serious, but I like analogies. We can look at it as looking ahead to keys to the game. What are the keys to look for in the long-range solutions? Those are reasonable scenarios that we can do, but if you're doing it without context and you happen to look at the euro and on day 7 later today, it shows a powerful hurricane in Corpus Christi, I don't want you to be upset about that because you think that's what's going to happen. That's one solution from one run of one model. You get me? So it's up to you. You know the stuff's out there, but understanding it and putting it into context is hugely important. So that's what it looks like by day 7. We'll see. This is going to take a while to evolve, and I think there's 2 scenarios. It either stays stuck generally in this region, or it's able to pop loose, develop into something significant, and be a threat anywhere from Texas-Louisiana border down into eastern Mexico. That, I think, is a logical conclusion at this point in time. All right? Also, I saw this on Twitter, the EPS guidance, if I can talk, and this is all the different members of it's called the Ensemble Prediction System. That's what EPS stands for. And this shows the different members of the European ensemble. Green is generally fairly weak, and this is green down here in its genesis. The blues are stronger, and the reds are hurricane. Yes, some of the members of the European model do make this a hurricane. These reds in here, 972 millibars, 960, 962, 53, 74, so forth and so on. These are your clues, again, that the more of these reds that you see, the more the chances are that we would have a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, according to this one run last night of one model. You understand? So it gives you a clue to the future as to what to look for, not necessarily what's going to happen. It's not even not necessarily. That's not what's going to happen. Those are showing you, the model senses that if it gets into the Gulf, conditions are likely to be favorable for this to develop into a significant tropical cyclone. That's what we know today at 9:48 a.m. Eastern Time as I wrap this video up. Is that what time it is already? Sure is. All right. A couple things before I let you go. I'm on Twitter at HurricaneTrack. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, which is pretty much where I put these videos, everything's HurricaneTrack. That's our brand. YouTube.com/HurricaneTrack. And we are supported almost completely by crowdfunding. Patreon, and it's more than just, it's a subscription or a membership. It goes far beyond that. I invite you to check it out. Go to that link down there. I've also got it in the description. You can type it in, patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. You're not only supporting my ability to earn a living, but it feeds back the old Jerry Maguire, help me, help you, help me. It really is that way. I'm able to do this, and it helps our field work. You benefit from it. So it's hurricane season, even if it's just 6 months. I invite you, look, if just a quarter of my total following on social media signed up at the $1 level, just $1, we'd be set for funding, my crew and I. And we're already doing amazing things. I think you could agree. We would be able to accomplish wonders, put it that way. So I invite you to check out Patreon. Those of you that are on Patreon and our HurricaneTrack insiders that have been with our subscription service, that's what we called it a long time ago. Now it's more like a cooperative. It really is. But I thank you all for that support over the years. And it's allowing me to do this. It really is. And I think it helps benefit more than just our supporters. It really does. It's like public radio. All right, got to raise the funds, so every once in a while I'm going to talk about that. That is it from me. I got to get out of the hotel here, head back home to North Carolina, where I probably have to start getting things ready to go back. Probably. We'll see. You can count on me to have these videos every day during the hurricane season, unless I'm going to take a few days off, and I'll let you know. when that's going to happen. Yes, I encourage you to share these videos. It's helpful. It's helpful to me. It's helpful to you. It's helpful to the people you share it with. It benefits everybody all around. All right, and if you ever have any questions, message me, comment, send me an email. I'm at Hurmark, HURRMARK, @gmail.com. And the website, of course, is HurricaneTrack.com. Been around for 21 years now. Have a great rest of your Monday. Welcome to hurricane season. I'll be with you throughout. I am Mark Sedeth, proud to be here. It's an honor to do this for you once again. HurricaneTrack.com. Talk to you later.